Kidneys form urine by filtering the blood using microscopic structures called nephrons. Nephrons contain a sphere called the renal corpuscle. Blood enters the renal corpuscle through one vessel and exits out a different vessel. If we slice open this sphere, we can see that these two blood vessels are connected by a capillary bed called the glomerulus. Blood enters through an afferent arteriole and exits through an efferent arteriole. Since the afferent arteriole has a larger diameter, more blood can enter the capillary bed than can exit. Because of this, blood pressure builds inside the glomerulus and squeezes out some of the fluid from the blood and collects within the renal corpuscle. This process of squeezing fluid out of the capillary is called filtration, and the fluid that is squeezed out is called filtrate. The filtrate formed in the renal corpuscle enters what's called the renal tubule. This series of tubes consists of the proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, and distal convoluted tubule. In these tubules, the filtrate is modified or refined by exchanging molecules with the neighboring blood vessels. Certain molecules from the blood move into the filtrate. Certain molecules from the filtrate move into the blood. As the name suggests, the renal tubule is a hollow tube that allows filtrate formed in the renal corpuscle to pass through. As the filtrate passes through the proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, and distal convoluted tubule, that filtrate will be modified by the secretion of unwanted molecules from the blood into the filtrate, and by the reabsorption of valuable molecules in the filtrate back into the blood so that they can be used. Once the filtrate reaches the end of the nephron, it enters a collecting duct. Collecting ducts collect filtrate from many nearby nephrons. Here, the filtrate can be further modified by reabsorption and secretion. And once the filtrate reaches the end, it will no longer be modified. Only then is this fluid called urine. If we focus only on the nephron, we can see that each region of the renal tubule secretes and reabsorbs different substances. For example, the proximal convoluted tubule reabsorbs all of the most valuable substances in the filtrate, including sugar and amino acids. Sugar and amino acids are valuable resources, so we don't flush them down the toilet. We reabsorb them so they are available in our blood to be used. The proximal convoluted tubule also reabsorbs many ions, sodium being among the most important. And when so many solutes are reabsorbed into the blood, it makes the blood more concentrated, increasing its osmotic pressure. For this reason, when solutes are reabsorbed, water is obligated to follow it if it can. The proximal convoluted tubule is permeable to water, so we see this obligatory water reabsorption occur. On the other hand, hydrogen ions are secreted from the blood into the filtrate, especially when the blood is too acidic. This helps maintain blood pH homeostasis. Many of the same ions that are reabsorbed in the proximal convoluted tubule are also reabsorbed from the loop of Henle, including sodium, chloride, potassium, and calcium. All of these solutes are reabsorbed in the ascending limb of the loop of Henle. As we know, movement of solutes creates an osmotic pressure gradient, so water will be pulled along with these solutes. Only the descending limb of the loop of Henle is permeable to water, so water is obligated to be reabsorbed from the descending limb. As in previous sections, the distal convoluted tubule also has reabsorption of sodium ions. But unlike other regions, this section is not permeable to water. But certain hormones can facilitate water reabsorption by increasing the number of water channels present in the distal convoluted tubules and collecting ducts. When hormones stimulate the increase in water channels, it results in increased facultative water reabsorption. Which brings us to how hormones regulate whether lots of dilute urine is produced or very little concentrated urine is produced. These hormones primarily act upon sodium and water reabsorption. This is because when more sodium is reabsorbed, water is obligated to follow. The more fluid volume that's reabsorbed back into the blood, the less volume is left in the filtrate and ultimately urine. Hormones like atrial natriuretic peptide act upon sodium reabsorption. ANP inhibits sodium reabsorption, so less sodium returns to the blood and more stays in the filtrate. This in turn decreases obligatory water reabsorption. The result is that more fluid remains in the filtrate, leading to larger urine production. Other hormones stimulate sodium reabsorption, like angiotensin II. Now, more sodium returns to the blood and less stays in the filtrate. Water is obligated to follow, leading to the movement of water out of the filtrate and into the blood. The result is that less fluid remains in the filtrate, leading to smaller urine production. Aldosterone has the same effect as angiotensin II, stimulate sodium reabsorption. The difference is that aldosterone targets cells in the distal convoluted tubule and collecting ducts. This last hormone does not target sodium reabsorption. Instead, it affects water reabsorption. Antidiuretic hormones stimulate cells in the distal convoluted tubule and collecting ducts to add water channels to facilitate facultative water reabsorption. By moving water out of the filtrate and into the blood, urine volume decreases. As you can see, only atrial natriuretic peptide increases urine volume. Substances like this that promote urination are classified as diuretics. The other three hormones decrease urine volume. They are classified as antidiuretics. Since diuretics increase urine volume, they're indicated in yellow, and since antidiuretics increase blood volume, they're indicated in red. Let's consider when we will see these hormones released. ANP is released by the atria of the heart in response to high blood pressure. As a diuretic, ANP not only increases urine volume, it also decreases blood pressure. So ANP functions to bring high blood pressure back down to a normal range. Angiotensin II, aldosterone, and antidiuretic hormone are all released in response to features found in dehydration, like low blood pressure or high concentration of solutes in the blood, aka high blood osmolarity. Angiotensin II is activated in response to low blood pressure in the kidneys. Aldosterone is released by the adrenal glands in response to angiotensin II. And ADH is released by the adrenal glands in response to high blood osmolarity detected in the hypothalamus. As antidiuretics, these three hormones not only decrease urine volume, they also increase blood pressure. So these hormones function to bring low blood pressure back up to a normal range. All of these hormones help maintain fluid homeostasis by regulating the urinary system.